This one's for the children of the world. I'd like to greatly thank the people of China for a friendly, safe, informative, and wonderful journey. Thank you. Although I may have gone to China to face fears, it kept coming back to one thing: the children. The children. Children the world over. So this work is for our shared tomorrow.
Ami. Amanima lampu. Mu. Bachon. Mai paton. Behoyaning. Behoyaning.
And welcome. This exploration is about one thing: the vital relationship of China and the United States, the West. Our two countries are phenomenal powers. Together, we can forge wonderful progress for all humanity. We can inspire even greater accomplishments than we already have. Today, the slightest misunderstandings can lead us to untold destruction and hardship. It's all preventable. It will take our individual courage, but as a team, we will save the earth from what appears now as insurmountable challenges. Vast military spending, pollution, population, a healthy environment, sharing resources, disease, livable wage jobs, corruption, and justice. To me, this also dismantles the ideologies fueling terrorism. I'd like to support our uplifting the world. That's the ultimate Olympics. I mention my critique and concerns of China not for blame, for we all have our own failings and deficits, but because I believe that by openness, we further our understanding and encourage the unfoldment of solutions, of exciting solutions. That's my and many Chinese vision for a better world and our relationship. Thank you for listening to this one and necessary limited attempt at mutual trust. As we fly over the North Pole, it's so profound for me that we're flying over the North Pole and you can't see anything but there's white clouds down there. And it's my birthday, April 25th, flying over the North Pole. That's cool. Well, the axis upon which we revolve, the axis of good. Why fear any people or any nation more than others, but it's definitely a nation on the rise, quickly on the rise. And for what I'm reading, without regard to environmental concern with their huge growth and putting a lot of focus in building a huge military, that really does concern me. All humanity has got devastating history, and all humanity is capable of tremendous inhumanity, and all people are capable.
They are fears, so I wanted to face them. I want to look at them, and I don't want to have fear. I had these concerns about China for a long time, and they've been building. It's hard to talk about them in these places of beauty, but I'm trying to talk about them in these places of beauty because they're clarifying. So what are the fears? The history is horrible. The amount of people who have died from these towns, all these towns. The Cultural Revolution is just people who had education, or people who were, in the old ways, quote unquote, had to be purified, had to go into the nobleness of peasantry, and a lot of mistakes were made.
Well over 70 million people have been killed, starved to death, or killed. Not during wartime, not because of a war, not because of Japan or Russia or war with India on the border, but internally. People killing their own because of their political beliefs, social ideals. Over 70 million people in my lifetime killed. That's by
The war worried I get, especially with the president that we have made by invading Iraq and breaking international law. And I know that China is building their military quite quickly. My fear is that things can happen again if we don't talk about them, recognize them, acknowledge them, and then yes, we can move forward, we can move on. Is it possible that the Chinese government are doing their best to have history not repeated? I don't think anyone really wants to repeat the horrors, but I think there is fear that if we don't have control, I think it's a natural human instinct. The only way I know is for us to raise consciousness and through education, and to be able to build a society where it's safe, to know that yes, we all do make mistakes, and we don't have to concentrate on the past, that we're all in this together, and to try to, through example, build fairness, build openness, and for me to be as open as I can, for us to be as open as we can. That's, in a way, why make this journey. Meet people, talk about things, embrace them, encourage people forward, encourage good humanity, good government. Good government is about doing something fair. I know life is never fair all the time, and I know there's injustice happening, but it's kind of day by day moving in that direction and encouraging others to move in that direction.
On my last night in China, I visited the carefully monitored and closed-at-night Tiananmen Square. China has taken on the great responsibility of hosting one of the world's greatest events. It is a precious moment for us all to not placate China or revel in superiority as to who wins the most gold. Rather, for all of us to help each other celebrate, recognize, and affirm what universal principles are important. What human goals do we wish to achieve for the world's team?
Tiananmen Square. Across the road.
Heaven knows we need the best team ever.
The Olympics.
This I did not know. For all these decades, even during the revolution when we were enemies, the way to write America, if they or you were to address a letter to here or write an article, is with two characters. Together they make up the symbol for the United States. Country and beautiful. Beautiful country. That says so much. Imagine if we just wrote beautiful country instead of the word China. For over a month, this is the overland route covered. No airplanes or tour groups. Hong Kong to Suchen, Guangzhou, Yangshuo, Guilin, Shaoxing, Kaili, up and over to the Great Buddha in Leishan, entering Tibetan areas Chengdu, Kanding, Tagong, Ganzi, Yushu, Xining area, the Longman Caves via Xi'an and Luoyang up to Beijing. Starting out on a ferry, the journey was all overland, mostly buses, more than 15 of them.
6:15 in the morning, and there's our bus. Pretty busy. All the buses lined up.
Various three-wheeled vehicles. One of my favorites.
We got a little short trailer. All right.
Two wheels. And to be able to cross a river in beautiful, unexpected ways. And a river to take you to the next city.
A little boat. All right.
several sleeper buses, but going through and down steep mountains actually required the cooling of brakes, which I've never heard of before.
Must be the brakes. I'm not sure. Must be the brakes that warm up.
There were several accidents, and you pulled together on these roads. One of the many good drivers to get us from one place to the next.
This ravine though. We're on the road. Just on the way to the Dalai Lama's house.
Of course, there were days of foot travel. The most luxurious and rare for me was a train ride.
So there we are. Inside the train.
Even when traveling slowly, when we start climbing into the snows, altitude sickness needs to be taken very seriously. Or you too could have your best photo taken after spending all night vomiting with 2 days of the brain swelling, splitting headache. Our gas prices are finally rising, but competition with China's oil protections got us beat. It costs 200 yuan to fill this bus. That's less than half of what it takes to fill my small car back home. I know I'm traveling when I hand wash my clothes. The US and China both have dirty laundry. It's good to clean up and hang it out to air, together with mine.
Try to find in this dung village my underwear. Okay, and if you can't, I'm going to take it back and I'm going to zero in. But there it is. There's our hotel. And if you look carefully, you'll see my t-shirt and my underwear. That's it.
Waiting for a bus, my first meal on the mainland. Truly, food is one of the great joys and consternations of China for a Westerner. For those traveling outside Western-style hotel chains or big cities, finding coffee or bread is simply not possible. Perhaps most importantly from recent reports, you don't know if what you're eating may kill you someday. But that aside, if you don't like very hot spices, loads of grease, or MSG, it's very tough here generally. I found very few who could understand why or how I would not have eaten meat or poultry for over 36 years, never mind why I didn't want it now. Indeed, a number of times, with a Chinese translator painstakingly explaining, no meat, no meat. On more than a few occasions, dishes would be served anyway with some meat or meat sauces. I only put a little meat in there for flavoring. You have to have some meat for flavoring, was the amazing response. Vegetarianism is still a long learning curve here, even though vegetables were plentiful.
Look at this cart of vegetables coming up. Man, that looks great.
You can get almost everything freshly cooked in front of you, and I'm happy to say in over a month I never got sick. The other concern was the unnecessarily huge portions served. Asking for just a small dish or a small portion of a vegetable went unheeded. China's growing health hazard, obesity, reaching the highest obesity growth levels in the world today.
Okay. Great. Just gonna put, see, that's the stuff they make in that greasy stuff. Yes, this is breakfast.
You had soy milk carts and mainly tea. Everyone, everywhere in China, has their own special tea.
谢谢。
没看过人家做这个。
We're doing a little hot pot. We put in all these sticks. They charge you a penny for a stick of food. We got all kinds of things in there. Cauliflower.
Although the fish from the numerous farms may be highly suspect, and all the other food probably is loaded with chemicals from widespread crop spraying throughout the land, the fresh cooked local food generally was delicious. It's at this dinner table, specifically, with this chef, that I heard repeatedly, "We are two great powers, and together we should help the world. We should help the world." It's here that we celebrate and welcome and toast coming together. Food is the place we serve each other. It is human ceremony throughout our cultures. It is community in practice. It is a joy. It is nourishment of the body and the soul. I met such good people serving you here. Again, thank you, China. Now for each other, let's help each other get the food safety issues straight. The biggest uniter of our mindsets is the internet. I'd go early in the morning to these dark dens because they were packed full at night. Even in the smallest towns, just find anyone under 20 years old in China and they can point you to the nearest internet cafe. Content remains quite restricted here, but you will find, like all over the world, people researching and communicating as much as they can, and kids addicted to playing the same exact games. Here it is, our Olympic trial, our Olympic team challenge. Can we have a most coveted Olympic gold for the environment, for our health? Who wins and loses this game? All of us. The old land of bicycles has disappeared and very quickly given way to a familiar kind of congestion. This is not a cloudy, overcast day. It's not a foggy day. This is not fog. It's pure pollution. Here in Leishan, the city of the great sitting Buddha, you can't see. It's smoke from the burning fields every spring. When China continually covets the words non-intervention to internal affairs, how does this relate to air, water, food, and products we all eventually share? China's energy consumption has more than quadrupled in the past 25 years. The world's largest consumer of the dirtiest type of energy, coal, and is projected to double its use of coal in the next 2 decades. It's about the planet's health, but isn't it also about helping the Chinese know it's directly killing them? And we care, I care, especially for the children I met.
Spoke to them about the smog, some of the results of this fantastic growth in the factories, and they don't quite, it doesn't quite compute, it seems. Progress is progress, and they didn't see the smog as much of a problem.
For hours, this is what you see. Thousands of factories line up along the coasts and highways. Many workers are not able to leave their factory's compound. You're looking at them here with bare living quarters right above or alongside. It makes me so sad that through our short-sighted and almost criminal policies, for decades granting most favored nation status, turning our eyes from any accountability, and granting tax-exempt policies for our businesses going overseas, etc., don't we share responsibility? Haven't we supported China developing industries and practices that completely lack in human safety, that give no thought to our shared environment, where we've pushed the only thing that matters is bottom line profit. Now China scoffs, what right have we to preach? And we wonder why our toys, materials, food, and products are now considered unhealthy and even dangerous.
I am a little sad. We've been passing for an hour. The past hour, we've been passing nothing but all these workers' buildings and factories. And it seems to me a tough life, tough life. It makes me think of how lucky I am, that's all, how fortunate I am to be just traveling.
The Olympic competitions have rules followed by all internationally. Isn't this international competition needing clearer rules? We've helped our CEOs here rake in untold disproportionate earnings and have created a good number of Chinese billionaires. But with many more being impoverished, who is this progress for? Have we supported the movement back to indentured servants, sometimes even slavery conditions? Bricks and brick factories are omnipresent throughout China, and yes, slavery conditions have recently been uncovered in several. Some factories are ultra-modern with latest technology, but it's still easy to find sweatshops all around the countryside. Here a woman working very late into the night, working with acid, making batteries. No eye protection. Most had no gloves, no insurance or compensation. Wages not possible for us to live on, and if you don't like it, there's the door. We have people to take your place. The basic rights and conditions laborers and humanitarians have worked so hard for centuries to uplift humankind were here sold to the lowest bidder, to environments with the least oversight or regulation. The smoke is horrendous, unacceptable for any human. It's killing Chinese and all of us. This is our Olympics. This is the challenge today around the world. We can do better. We can help create solutions. We can reinforce basic livable conditions. We can care. That's our expertise. The burning of the fields does a rich soil and prevents struggling farmers from having to haul material. But how about composting or exchanging other low-tech methods? In China, many tiny farms are not accessible to machinery or vehicles. We can gather our farmers here and around the world to share ideas on practical alternatives that are low cost, that don't require heavy machinery, good for the farmers, good for the earth, good for us all. Humanity owes much to the thousands of years of collected wisdom in this land. The I Ching, Taoist and Confucian philosophy has helped us organize our mind and thought, better understand roles in a civilization, our identity and place in the universe, the movement and change in our shared nature, the cycles of our lives, night to day, winter to spring, the firm yielding to the flexible and back, and the flow of our energy interconnecting the wholeness of our health, our optimum well-being.
Okay. I did a lot of this when I turned 50. No, like that.
The youth clearly prefer the rhythms and tunes of the West. I often thought I was actually hearing Western pop music, just with different words. The guitar is the instrument of choice, and their life is being now versed in rap. It's not easy finding traditional music outside the tourist venues and true minority regions.
Pirates of the Caribbean in Chinese is playing.
Our latest movies, after sanitization of any political content, are quickly and simultaneously pirated here. Even deep in the countryside, you find Pirates of the Caribbean with Johnny Depp translating very easily.
Interesting. One thing I noticed, if you just look at the clothes here in China of people, if you don't look at the faces, you just look at the clothes, you are anywhere in the world, anywhere in the West, anywhere in America. Same shirt, same shorts, same shoes. In that sense, we are one world. We're all dressing the same.
This is something that people can't really talk about when you're in China, or maybe you can, I'll find out, but they're regular people. Everyone's being watched. The 3 T's, Tiananmen Square, Taiwan, and Tibet. Although people feel much freer to speak, still not about the 3 T's. I found no one with differing views other than the party line that would go and say that on camera, anywhere in China. Especially the great tragedy of Tibet, which they continue to have very narrow information about. What they repeat is,
well, Tibet, there's no question to them that this is part of China, always was, and they really have liberated the place. So there's no real debate there. In terms of Taiwan, they don't understand why this is like a younger daughter that's not coming home. And I tried to explain to them that I thought that they were a separate country for the past 60 or so years, that they've had a separate kind of government, and they deserve to have their own country, but they do not understand that it's just part of China. They should come home to their mother, and they're one of their daughters. So Hong Kong has come home, Macau has come home, so Taiwan should come home. And Tibet, forget that. It's not a matter of that coming home. It's already been home.
go into a world where you have to be careful about what you say.
I just interviewed a few folks, and it's still, people are still really afraid to be interviewed for fear that this could get out to the police. One person relayed to me that they had someone who interviewed on a camera once, and that the policeman came, and there was a lot of problems for them and their family.
You know how the game goes?
No, but I'm figuring it out.
The one person that lost
Yes.
punishment. Being punished.
And
That's
he
why
wasn't-
I just keep doing to him. That's why they punish
He
him.
wasn't punished too severely. Oh, the punishment.
From the land that originated fireworks, like July 4th is to us, May Day is the most important holiday, where in Tiananmen Square the military is displaying its might, a week-long commemoration of communism / now capitalism. I was asked how I saw the people celebrating. I saw no flags flying.
Just by the way people celebrate, I mean, the way they spend the holiday time. Can you
It
get a
looks-
sense of what it is?
Not really. There's been no patriotic stuff that I've seen. People are basically on buses, they're with their families, they're going out to eat meals, they're strolling in parks, they love games, they'll come to tea houses like this. Well, I have not seen much of Mao. I thought I'd see more big posters of Mao.
So you're
And
surprised.
I'm surprised, but we're not in the Forbidden City or whatever. Hello. They don't really want to be looking at the past. Past means, in talking politics, no. Just Mao has done good things, and Zhou Enlai has brought modernization. Got rid of the foreigners. You know, the days of the emperors are over, and the people are rising up in prosperity. They do believe there's corruption, but those are individuals that are doing this, and the government is cracking down on corruption, and this is good. The ancestors being buried in the rice paddies, she always had these fears that, you know, her grandparents are in these rice paddies when she was young, and she had these leeches, and there was an outhouse. They had to go to an outhouse. They didn't have candles, not electricity. So she's really, really happy that, you know, they now have a lot of these conveniences, and they have nice homes and beds, and so she doesn't want to go back. We'll talk about Mao, and she said, well, you know, Mao has made some mistakes. You know, everyone makes mistakes is what she's saying, and, you know, we just got to move ahead. The past is the past.
Saying this is the only way to move ahead here. They don't seem to mind constantly remembering the transgressions of the West and their political flaws, the racism, slavery, imperialism. It's been said the Chinese know everything about the history of the 1850s and almost nothing of the history of the 1950s. Forget talking about China's big cities. Cement and more cement, the old giving way quickly to the new. For those who visited China 20 years ago, you won't recognize most of the old quaint villages deep in the countryside, nor the cities. They are mostly gone.
So they moved the old bus station in the middle of Leishan to this new, looks like a brand new airport. There's Nanjing here below us. There's a river down there. There's the city of Chengdu.
Yushu is considered a gem that completely knocked down the center of town.
This is all new. All center. Big square down there. So here's, see these old buildings here? They're taking them apart. They're taking off the tiles, and they're putting up these new things right here. They seem very proud of the modernization of the city. They say buildings that are 100 years old or 150 years old, that means nothing when you have a history of thousands of years old. 14th century palace is below us, but there's the river down there. See the river? That's the same river that goes down to the city we just in. But look at this sprawling. This is supposed to be a quaint. This is a quaint city here. Especially in this area, it goes back over 1,000 years. So they just really think nothing of knocking down. I can see no vestiges in Guilin of the old city except the temple complex. Everything else in the city is brand new, and anything that's more than 20 years old, it seems, is just knocked down, and tremendous construction going on everywhere.
Guilin is actually a sister city of guess where? Orlando, Florida.
The poor old city of Guilin.
Only now, very late in the game, because of newfound money in tourism, are they beginning to think about maintaining sometimes just a single street saved in some cities.
Rice fields, and then comes this town which used to be, see the old town is right below there, and to the right, of course, is the old and new. It's a great old town, and that's the peak that we just came from.
It's a big country, and there are still precious cultural spots, mostly found in minority areas, where you can still meet different kinds.
We're in a tunnel, 4.2 miles maybe?
There is no vote or community activism that can stop roads, highways, dams, trains, or new airports from cutting through nature's gifts, farms, or villages, whatever is expedient for profits and access for the military. Developers here in China are not unlike developers the world over. It's about immediate livelihood, money. But perhaps there's less sensitivity to, therefore less regulation for the protection and the preservation of precious culture, human landmarks.
ngày càng một giờ những to rồi cái gì
Năm nay là
một cái trống một giờ
thì phải nói cả cho
dạ một cái trống rồi nhà khác với nhà khác với công nam rồi
các công na toàn
Environmentalists would be greatly disappointed. Natural flows of water habitats are non-existent, with every one of the thousands of China's rivers except one being dammed, construction continuing to dam most many times over. Water is running low and in crisis in many parts of the land. With the fishing out of our seas and fishermen's communities slowly being replaced by development, tiny and huge fish farms are everywhere to be found, from the oceans to throughout the mainland, feeding millions presently, but the purity of the food and widespread polluting practices are again questioned.
A lot of the poor people from the countryside are trying to come to the cities for work, but there really isn't work for them. People who are making money don't want to do the lowly jobs, so they don't want to work hard, is what he said. It's true for people, I told him, all over the world, that the youth don't want to do the nitty-gritty cleaning up jobs. And these tensions being felt here. Actually, it's more of a capitalist country than the country I come from. She's got to move to another place. She can't keep up with that rent. So greed starts setting in, prices start getting up. So it's the same old, same old. Yeah, education is key, and finding a good job is increasingly becoming difficult. So there are these disparities between the rich and poor as they're experiencing this growth in capitalism.
Of the schools visited, I was perhaps most moved by this one for Tibetan children, nestled in the snowy mountains and helped by international donations. These are considered the fortunate ones, fed, clothed, and learning Chinese and the social structure. After spending several months a year to study here, they will be changed people when returning to their mostly illiterate communities, often nomad tents. 600 children and 22 teachers.
Thank you very much. They're working very hard. Tell them they're working. Yeah. Okay.
The kids will each stay in one assigned classroom, and the teachers rotate. The teachers are young, dedicated Tibetan and Chinese together. Very few books, mostly blackboard and vocal repetition. The learning is by route. Like in other Chinese schools, critical thinking isn't on the menu. The emphasis is on mathematics and language. They learn to read and write Tibetan, but must learn to read and write Chinese. There is no geography or world history at this age. I was from outer space. I was told there aren't enough supplies to have music. When I asked the children what subjects they liked the best, they were very diplomatic. We like them all, was the response. Here they're on bathroom break. The kitchen staff are all volunteers. There is no heat in the bedrooms, and 2 children per cot sleep together for warmth, 4 per bunk. They all get the same allotment and issue of clothes, knapsack, cup, and toothbrush. I was very, very touched by the sweetness of these children and the efforts of an idealistic, friendly, and welcoming staff. Bless them all.
Thank you. Timo. Okay. Timo.
Our concepts of health are merging with the East, especially for long term, especially as certain preventable mortality rises with conditions such as obesity, heart disease, environmental carcinogens, and basic overall safety.
So this is a state hospital right here.
It's new and beyond the financial means of many residents.
You can see here that they pretty much have to take care of their own.
The chief complaints are similar: high blood pressure, arthritis, but here TB is more real. 5 minutes away is a general clinic for others, the minorities. When I spoke with the doctors here and in other areas about what they needed most, they said more doctors. Caring for the poor, they are understaffed and overworked, overwhelmed at times. One hadn't had a vacation in a year. No such thing as privacy in these modest triage rooms. They are very open. All ages with any kind of problem can walk in. A fortunate rarity, this non-state-run clinic survives by the good charity of foreigners, among others.
I interviewed all these patients up here. The old lady, the young boy got a skin problem. The old lady has a kidney problem. They're both on IVs. Yeah.
I found a good array of common Western medicines, as well as making here their own traditional meds with blessed substances and herbs. In cities, there are numerous clean Main Street and shopping mall private hospital clinics. Here, welcoming staff are dressed as nurses.
Every place has a special, or something free, or some gifts.
This hospital had good sales technique, offering free blood and urine tests. The basic services read like those of the West, offering reproductive services, prenatal care, care for women, care for youth, for elderly, for communicable diseases. They list regular health, prevention, and maintenance checkups. You pay, it's not free.
Health education.
Health education.
Something here is for birth control.
Yes, abortions are not questioned, and in the countryside, the various medical clinics post the heavy fines levied on those who officially have more than the allotted number of children. Boys are still preferred, although you wonder if anyone listens, as there is no shortage of children running around. Here it states a hefty 500 yen fine for any woman marrying before age 20, or boy before 22.
This is the local hospital.
You don't have children out of wedlock in China, unless you're very wealthy or you hide them. This manager outlaid the many services, but mainly abortions, he said. Hey, I know a place on the street where you can get cheap new teeth. Here's a dentist with no gloves, using the same drill dipped in a little alcohol, and a woman taking nothing for pain. Like in the U.S., medical care is increasingly a business, now profit-oriented as well. I met extremely dedicated people of service and pure entrepreneurs alike. The SARS scare has made it clear that our challenges are interconnected. Testing for several communicable diseases are now free throughout, from what I could see. Naturally, most outlying areas can't afford such diagnostic machines such as CAT scans and MRIs. If you are poor and sick, it seems there's little that will be done, and little network besides your own family to care. As with the West, the wealthy can shop here or anywhere internationally for the best options for them, and they do. What's with the animal spirits here? This shaman's temple has spells and powerful prayers, talismans, and remedies. Some continue to learn to coexist with the New World's medicines, and vice versa. Medical care now in China has a full range of services, and the level of care varies greatly. In the modern cities, care is becoming indistinguishable to some of our own hospitals, several connected to and exchanging with our higher institutions here. This is a most positive direction for humanity's focus. In an ancient monastery near the great Leishan Buddha, I met with a head monk whose devotion was spreading Buddha's teachings of compassion and service. He says he's deeply concerned that the world is in a very dangerous situation and can be largely destroyed. He believes the wisdom and quality of compassion can save it. He was brave going on camera, stating his tremendous faith in America. He says world peace and human safety depends on the ambitions of the United States. He says America leads the world, will never fall back, and always move forward, because it allows people who have talents, creativity, and skills to participate and grow.
And is it difficult for him to be a monk here and do his practice?
Here in China, he said, the spiritual practices are going down. In China, it is who you know in life. And now especially, everything is all oriented around money.
I really appreciate all the servants of peace in all the religions. It's the same concern in America, all over the world, and tell him I thank him, and I'll think of him and in his practice, and that I wish him well in his practice. And these are very challenging times, both in America and here, and that it's very important, his kind of service, and it inspires me for the work I like to do. So I pray for him to continue his service.
Faith was being reduced and lost to tourism. The government here controls the purse, who gets the positions, monitors and restricts the message. We must lead, he said. It's our duty.
I like the idea of us trying to help China move in the right direction, because we need each other. I think our present leader in the United States has not been helping with world peace, but that people in the United States hopefully will move in that direction.
He says the human heart needs compassion, and our politics allows great scientists and faiths such as Buddhism alike to be fostered. In America's open environment, he felt the true virtues could be nourished and spread to save us all. His trust and faith in this and us was staggering. Will we live up to his vision? I know some are trying their best.
Well, tell him thank you very much for his service, and that humankind benefits very much. And he's as important as anyone in America, and his thoughts and his prayers and his feelings. Yeah, you should know that. Yeah. He's a very special man. Tell him he's a very special man. Yeah. And for him to keep the faith and because I can't do what I'd like to do unless I know people like him here. Not easy to feel the peace of the Buddha here.
With tourism thriving, there are no vestiges of spiritual practice around the wonder and ancient Longmen Buddha caves outside Loyang. But we can find encouragement in a peace sign that is over 1,500 years old. As for Muslims, you can find several large new mosques going up. There is no Arabic spoken, and certainly not the political use of the word jihad allowed. As in this Taoist temple, a universal tendency can be found, with our grandparents keeping up the old ways, and the accompanying teenagers bored and more interested in talking on their cell phones.
So we're looking at the Kanding Catholic Church.
The middle window.
So I was told that there's a Catholic church, and here it is in Guilin. And these are new churches. This is built just in the past 5 years or so.
There certainly is no liberation theology in China. Afterwards, I did manage to speak with one priest only off camera, and I must admit, and it's difficult to tell, but I left feeling like I was speaking with an entrepreneur, a business manager, more than one in the service of the Holy Spirit.
Inside, the only thing in English that I could find anywhere in the books or whatever was the line, "God is love," was on one of the columns. And if that's the message, that is a powerful enough message. That's what God is, and if that message gets out, so much the better. One feels that it's quite, I don't know, it's poor and perhaps a little oppressed, but caring for others, compassion, charity, these are the most powerful forces in the universe. And as this great dragon rises in China, if those influences of compassion are with their basic human, it's the better human aspects, our higher human aspects. If that can carry onward, we'll be in good shape, or I know it will help anyway. So it's good to see. It's good to see a church here for that, and I'm hoping that's the thrust, that's the small vibration that's being put out here. I know all the missionaries of the past that were here hundreds of years ago have had to leave, and not all of it was good, and some of it was part of the great oppression that this country is still very fearful of. So, okay, much love.
Over the years, the major symbol of China perhaps said it all, a wall. What does it say, your symbol being a great wall? Can we hear the voice of 600 years ago, the Chinese emperor who was the son of the conqueror, who invaded and got around and over the Great Wall from the north? To all his counselors who were pressing him on security of the state to repair and upkeep the wall, he very clearly said, "Why would I repair the wall? It didn't keep us out. If you want security, you have to win the people's hearts."
All right.
Interestingly, with the new generation, the walls China has kept up to the world have slowly been coming down. While for over a century, our welcoming, open, and compassionate Statue of Liberty, a symbol embraced and put up by the students in Tiananmen Square, we are here now abetting the business and have much talk of putting up walls, greater walls. What's happening to the deeper security? I know we can get back to the winning of hearts.
So on touching this place of nature, it is the earth. It is the earth. It's the same earth that's on the other side of the earth. And my thoughts about Chinese, being American, being Iraqi, being a Tamang, and being a Frenchman, being a Mexican. We are so one now. We always have been. We just thought we were really different, but we're not. Alright, these little guys trying to catch some fish with very thick rope. And there's just no way.
People are people everywhere, and I know that very, very clearly and very well. There's no people greater or lesser than any other people.
I always keep saying people are people are people, and I just really, I don't feel strange here, and so I expected to feel maybe a little strange. It's beautiful. People are people are people, as I keep saying. Because you see, people are people are people, and I know I keep saying this. Basically, I think people are wonderful people, hardworking people, good people, not so good people, really friendly people, not so friendly people. People look tired, people who look exhausted, and yet people who look energetic and just open. They just want to make do. They want to make their life run. They want to be happy. They want their kids to have education. They want to eat well. They want to have parties, and they want to have a nice home. Things. So the same thing, and people are really been quite friendly and open. She's so beautiful. This is the village that Jimmy Carter stayed in when he visited.
Behind this bamboo is a village that proudly identifies itself as Jimmy Carter's village. With enthusiasm, they tell you what a good person he is and how he and Rosalind rode their bikes here and were loved by the people. In comparison, the only tone you get about Bush is disrespectful and negative. They use him as another reason to build their military and another reason they don't want the democracy of America.
You can't get in Tiananmen Square in the evening. It's all fenced off, and there's no one in there except for soldiers. Well lit. They've locked it off. There are police cars. They're circling the outer perimeter. This is 18 years after Tiananmen Square. Total crowd control. Even during the day, you can only enter Tiananmen Square through 3 or 4 underground passengers. And this is a sign right across from Tiananmen Square. And it's 440 days to the Olympics. This is what China wants the entire world to focus on. Of course, this is the monument where the students stood up and the leaders called for freedom and democracy. do not forget the thousands who lost their lives. They may have taken it too far, but they didn't deserve to die. They didn't deserve to die. America benefited from listening to their message. And we instill our own vigor in our life. Walls. China's good putting up walls. And they put up Statue of Liberty in this place. And we have a Statue of Liberty, but we are putting up walls. Okay, good night. My last night in China.
Isn't it true? Well, my friend, adventure, hello, stranger.
And while I'm in this place of peace, I don't forget that there is Bush's war going on, that there are people dying, that there are people afraid for their lives. People think that any moment an explosion can go off. The tremendous tensions of rush hour traffic in the city, and people under the toil of work and making a living. The homeless that I worked with for so many years, I can feel it all. The starving in Darfur, the terror that people are experiencing. Yet I feel so secure and safe, even though I know anything can happen when one's traveling, but there's a tremendous sense of safety. I do not feel unsafe here.
Children can be mean or great to one another. Dogs can be vicious or friendly. It all depends on how they were raised, on the parents or the owners. Let's start here. How does one learn to feel and say please, or thank you, or I'm sorry? How does one learn to share, especially when you want something for yourself? How do we learn cooperation? How do we learn about people we don't know? How do we learn about what people we don't know are thinking and what their needs are? It's up to our example and our constant reinforcing and teaching. It's up to our vision and encouraging each other. Courage. China, America, let's appreciate and enjoy the good we are. Let's work together, dialogue together, and respond to our positive visionaries.
Hello. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.